Graffiti, street art, public art, whatever you want to call it, murals. I think it really does affect the everyday person for the better.
Street art is everywhere. It's accessible by everyone. It's doable by everyone.
It just encompasses us being artists creating art on the street and doing stuff either illegally, and if it is with permission, it's still just being outdoors, and this work is just like for the general public.
Graffiti can open someone up to finding their own voice and sort of echo your own sentiment.
Going weed pasting, you learn so much about a city when you do that by seeing how much other art is out there, how people respond to it. As an artist, like what other movement has like captured the imagination of people all over the entire world and young people and like had people participating at this level, it kind of continues to blow my mind.
Different countries use it differently. In some places, they're using it as heavy political propaganda against the injustice that their country is doing, and they have to remain anonymous, so they will be shot and killed. That is a whole different kind of, graffiti, vandalism taken to whole different levels.
Pues no me interesa cómo hacer esa distinção, graffiti de mulheres, graffiti de homens.
Eu uso a minha arte para falar de questões que me incomodam, sabe?
Graffiti is part of me, but I am not only graffiti. It's about feminism. It's about making something from nothing. When you're a female graffiti writer, you have to work harder, you have to be tougher. You can't fuck up. You can't make a mistake. They'll hold it against you forever.
When you've got like 100,000 guys writing graffiti, and you've got 100 women writing graffiti, it's always been kind of a guy thing.
You almost have to really fight the lack of self-esteem that's programmed into you since birth in order to generate a space for your own creative voice to be heard.
Checking out the rooftop, checking out the letters, checking out the tags. It was like this array of markings, but there was no real like figurative works. Maybe one or two old school like hip hop characters with graph letters. But I was like, there's no women, so I was, this is my opportunity to like come out and be that female version of like what the guys were doing. Obviously I didn't pursue the lettering route. I kind of just went with the character. And right away it was like a female character, the name Two Fly, and it all just came together and people were like, who is that? I was born in Ecuador. I came to the States when I was about 7 years old, back in '85. Growing up in Corona, Queens, there was a good bunch of bombers and, just street graph guys. From drawing on my sketchbooks, it went on to drawing on the tables, the fashion tables, the locker room, like the walls. And next thing you know, I was tagging up on mailboxes on my way home, going out late at night, tagging up in my neighborhood, pretty much just being like a rebel kid, graffitiing and kind of like destroying property. All those experiences turn you into whatever person you're gonna be, whether you're gonna be an artist or you're gonna just have a job or whatever. You still live that experience and it feels really good, and no one can take that away from you. When I was a teen, I would walk all the way from home, which was 102nd Street. All these streets were like tagged up. We would go this way, that way, all these corners, and it would be like how we hanged out. We hanged out, walked around, tagged up, and that was pretty much all we did. And I guess when we used to go to Flushing, there was parts where I actually did my first outlines and went inside some kind of trashy places where they crush cars, got chased by dogs, cut my hand, like this whole situation just to kind of like do a big character that you could see from the train, from the 7 line. There was this rooftop across the street from Fashion that I snuck in with my mom, again, like around 3, 4 in the morning. We like trespassed, and I got to do like my first full color character that you could see from like the 6th, 7th floor in high school. And she was like right there, like, you know, being my lookout, making sure nobody was coming up the building and holding my cans and all of that. So yeah, my mom was a really good example of someone that supports you, even though you're doing something illegal. And we both could have gone to jail or whatever if we got caught. Eventually, when 5 points came around, then I was able to paint, you know, with permission. I didn't have to worry about the cops. And so it helped me not being out on the street doing illegal stuff, which I didn't really want to do. I really wanted to just take my time and paint a piece.
Street artists stem from graffiti artists, and graffiti started in New York City, and it came from the need of the youth to express themselves when they had no other outlet. So instead of resulting to, you know, violence or real actual crime, not painting on walls, they started just working on what they had. And I think that's a need that every youth has everywhere, and especially when you're crammed into a city and you don't know what else to do and you're surrounded by walls, then the need to express yourself on them just comes naturally. I mean, 70,000 years ago, people were painting on the caves of Lascaux, and we still want to do it. So it just comes from that real base inner desire to create. And so New York, because there's so many people and it draws artists from all over the world, and it's an art center, to be part of that and then to want to do your work as big as possible so millions of people can see it. It's just like, you know, it's a perfect storm for street art and graffiti.
When I was maybe 15, my younger cousin got a hold of subway art, and I still have that book. It's already like so old. I started to see the photos of the artist, and obviously the one I was drawn to or stuck out was Lady Pink. You know, you get a book that says subway art, and then you're like, whoa, what's this? Like, New York was like full of graffiti and trains. I didn't grow up around the classic 80s stuff that was happening. So this book came into my life, and I was like putting 2 and 2 together. And then I see Lady Pink and all her paint.
Contrary to popular belief, I'm really not the first girl graffiti writer. There was like dozens and dozens and dozens of women through the 1970s who painted graffiti in New York City. What they didn't do is massive whole cars, top to bottom pieces, or, you know, any amount of artwork on the outside of trains. What they did do is a lot of tagging. They did bombing. They got up. They were hardy ladies that did a lot of graffiti. I came in at the end of the 1970s when most of them had already stopped and quit and moved on with life and grown up. I got my start as a graffiti writer when my very first boyfriend was arrested for graffiti, the boyfriend I had from the age of 13 to 15. He was nabbed for tagging in the streets, and his family sent him to go live in Puerto Rico. So that was it. He was gone. I was mourning his loss. He couldn't come back. He was only 15. I cried for a month and started tagging his name around the junior high school. And I took up with his friends and learned how to do style. But it wasn't until I went to high school and got the chance to actually paint some trains with these kids in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, and in different places. Not my own neighborhood. There was no place in Queens for me to paint. I had to go to the ghetto. And that was exciting in itself, hiding in a dark alley in the ghetto for a few hours under a bush. Ooh, there's nothing more fun than that.
You know, when I first started shooting graffiti back in like the late 70s, Lady Pink was the only female artist that I knew.
Even as a teenager, I would hear like a little 12-year-old boy say to me that you can't paint the subway train because you're a girl. So I think it was in me to prove that as petite as I was and as female as I was, that I can do whatever men can do.
Even though I had heard of others, there were others before Pink, but nobody who was doing as much work as she was, and nobody who was writing on trains the way Lady Pink was.
Martha Cooper, the renowned legendary photographer of graffiti, and Henry Chalfant were both around the graffiti movement from the early 80s. They were just part of the scene. I can't even remember exactly when I met Martha Cooper as a teenager. She was just always at the events, at the parties. She'd come to my house, my mother's house.
You know, I went to her house. I saw her cans of paint that she collected. One of her things was that she used light female colors, you know, that she considered like pinks. She had like a whole stack of cans on shelves that her father had built for her. All of that left an indelible impression on me. In the 70s, we're at the height of like feminism, and she invited me to go to the yards with her.
You have to know where to go, how to get there, sneak in. The train yards would have holes in the fences and routes to get in and ways to climb in. You couldn't just walk in the front entrance or anything like that. Although I hear in the 1970s, some of those guys would bribe the guards with liquor and hookers and stuff like that to keep them shut for a few hours while they did their thing. That works too, bribery, but sneaking in, moving like a ninja, climbing fences with a huge heavy bag full of paint and doing your thing. That's the way we mostly got in. All the graffiti writers would own certain train yards. They got very territorial. Some were groups with, you know, with sticks and knives and guns, and they protected their territory from outsiders and any amateurs, any toys that were coming in and making their spots hot. So you can't just be wandering into anybody's territory. You gotta know people, the right way to go in, when to go in, so that no incidents, getting arrested, people beating you down and taking your stuff and such, or your work not surviving. If you did it in the wrong place, someone's going to go over you because you don't belong there and you're a nobody.
Without the photo, you had no proof, because the train might not even run more than once or one day. It could get painted over by somebody else. It could be buffed by transit. The train could be pulled out of service.
This photo of one of the last subway trains I painted, when I first met my husband, they pulled our trains out and he snuck into the Coney Island train yard to take this photo. He was dressed with a little orange vest, pretending to be one of the track workers with a bag full of cameras, and he took a video of this as well. Their pieces on the train were already puddles on the ground. They had cleaned them up, they were gone. But mine was still one last remaining PIN. He photographed this, and I thought that was the most romantic thing ever. He risked himself so much, and that Coney Island train yard is the biggest train yard in New York with the highest security, and how he just walked in there and just took these photos. I don't know, that takes a different kind of crazy.
Always they were trying to get pictures. And I mean, Dondi even told me that he didn't want to paint a piece unless he had a camera, but the camera that he had was a cardboard camera that they usually would rack from some, not a camera store, but more like a drugstore, would have those little cardboard cameras. I immediately started giving back photos of the pieces. So of course that was really desirable. They wanted my photos, which were, you know, from my Nikon camera.
Every country and every place that we go, Martha is there, and she has faithfully photographed us and documented the graffiti movement and the street art movement for well over 35 years. What we do needs to be documented, because what we do is an experience in place and time, whether it's legal or not.
I published pictures of, and luckily Lady Pink allowed me to publish pictures of her doing some slightly illegal or some maybe massively illegal things in both subway art and hip hop files. But I first met Two Fly through Lady Pink.
I think the first time I saw Two Fly was at the Graffiti Hall of Fame. I painted there at 1 year, and it was just myself and just all guys. I was the only female. And then 1 year I hear that Two Fly will be painting there. I was stunned, so I went there to meet her and saw that she could really, really paint well.
When 2002 came around, when it was like really the first time that I became public, she's actually the one that came up to me and introduced herself.
And of all things, she was from Ecuador. She was from my very same country, and I don't meet too many female painters, so I was thrilled. And I take it upon myself to mentor and encourage and give opportunities to any of these females.
She's kind of been like our graffiti mom, because she started to get us together, and then stuff happened. She kind of stepped away from it, and then we kind of took the reins and started to organize ourselves.
We've become this kind of an informal sisterhood. We help each other, support each other, anything that we can possibly do to help out.
She's always been like super hardcore. She's a total old school New Yorker. She'll tell you like it is, and you just gotta listen.
Although some of the diehard purists in New York City were against her because she didn't really, what they call paid her dues. She didn't run around vandalizing anything. She could only paint very pretty, and that became kind of the mark for a new breed of artists. We call them the hip-hop artists. They like the style, they excel at the medium, they can use spray paint really well, but they do not break the law, and they're not afraid to admit it either.
In the 90s, we grew up the hip-hop golden era. Hip-hop was style, and it was like real authentic lyricism and in the rap music. We were all creating it at the same time, wearing hoodie jeans, jewelry, the way we spoke, our lingo. And so I feel like the stuff that I was creating, because I was growing up as a young woman trying to figure out like what kind of person I'm gonna be, my whole characters were like beat girls and hip hop girls, and they just kind of embodied the energy of the time.
I saw a movie, Wild Style, then I thought, wow, it's so cool. And then that was about the New York graffiti. And then before that, before I saw the movie, I really wanted to learn English, and I wanted to move to the States. Then I studied graffiti, then I'm like, oh my God, I have to move to New York. I really appreciate Two Fly because she just opened my door. I kept going to the graffiti class, which Sentu was doing at one point. And then one day I got a flyer. Flyer was for a woman hip hop event. And then on the flyer, I found like female writers wanted. I was like, oh my God, that's cool. But at the time, I didn't speak not much English. But there was phone number, so I was thinking. But I finally make a phone call, and then Two Fly picked up, and I send her my image, and then she picked me up to paint together. And me and Two Fly and the ACB, who passed away on 2006. So we three painted together. So they were, my first friend in New York.
The guys were always 10 steps ahead of us. And so when they did their exhibitions, they would invite some of the girls, but then give her like the shitty wall or like the shitty spot. And I was like, I'm not down with that. Let's just all get together and do our own show. And so now it was like, okay, well, let me call this girl, let me call this girl, let me call this girl. And then like she does letters, she does characters, like she's in town. And so after 6 women painting on this wall, we are like so excited and everybody's response is so great. And then it's like, well, where's the other festival happening at? And then when you realize Martha Cooper's taking our photo and she's the one that did the subway art book, and then you're like, oh shit. And then it clicks and you're like, I'm part of a bigger thing here.
Graffiti was sort of the first opportunity that I gave myself to excel and sort of prove things to myself that I wasn't really like pushing myself academically. Really to see like what I could do, what I had stamina to handle. I'm gonna say I tagged up in the late 80s, but I didn't really get up until the early 90s. It's almost like a dream. Like, was that my life? Did that happen? Or was that a movie? Like, it's strange to think of some of the things that I did, from, you know, climbing the Manhattan Bridge and scaling the entire bridge on a tiny metal plank, to climbing up like rooftops and not knowing how I was gonna get down, and to painting in terrible neighborhoods and, you know, literally having to like fight some dude off me and like spray him in the face. But spray paint is a very, very good weapon. When I stopped writing graffiti and I met a young Miss 17, I was hearing so much like crap because she was like a woman, and I was like, you know what? Let's hear them say this about me. And I'm gonna paint with this wonderful young lady. And you know, I really like owe her a lot, because I think after I started painting, there started to be like all this interest in Claw, because it was so public. People were like, oh damn, these two girls are like crushing. I would say that was like the highlight of my like graffiti career, to like paint with another woman, to show like pussy power in like full force. We're just two writers out here, but it was more than that.
I started realizing every time I was painting a wall, number one, I would get hollered at, like incessantly. Like the level of street harassment is really distracting when you're trying to paint and you're like, I'm just trying to paint. I'm not trying to talk to you or like give you my phone number. But also like, hey, yo, ma, who did that? Who's your boyfriend? And I'm like, you just stood there for 20 minutes watching me paint. You watched me paint, and you're still gonna sit there and ask me who did that, because you can't wrap your mind around the fact that I did that.
There are great women artists who are women, and there are great men artists who are men. It's not defined by gender or by race or by class. It's just great. Unfortunately, not everyone is interested in making art that is for the greater good. Like, I don't want to be part of that misogynistic system. The art world, not just the street art or graph, and it's not just the art world, I think it's a lot of careers are focused more on giving more opportunities to men than women.
Sometimes there's just straight out hostility, that there's a woman present. We can't have that. You know, what am I, the ship gonna go down because there's a woman present? You can't climb that ladder because you're a girl. Like, what? You need a penis to climb a ladder? Does it help you hold on?
Graffiti's been a guy's game from the beginning, but everything has, you know? I mean, no matter what industry you're in, men are dominating, and that's just the way things have been. You know, I think it's changing rapidly.
I know a lot of graph guys who haven't hit the streets as hard as I had. At one point, I was really crushing graffiti-wise, and I painted billboards on the BQE and climbed up these crazy tall ladders, and climbed on top of a lot of buildings and did a lot of roll downs, and I was really hitting it pretty tough. And I was never invited to be in any crews or, you know, invited out to paint with the dudes very often. And I don't know if I would have been as a dude. It's hard to say.
The first woman that I ever saw was Swoon, and she was doing her stuff in Brooklyn, like, you know, 15 years ago. And it was the first time I was like, that's graffiti. And I was like, no, it's not.
I was walking through Chelsea and saw these wheat pastes by Swoon and Gaia, and I was really struck by them. And I thought it was a huge gift to whoever was walking by.
And I was like, and then when I heard that it was, and I was like, but it's graffiti, but it's not. And like, I couldn't wrap my head around what she was putting on the wall, that it wasn't graffiti and letters, silver, black, and what, you know, like, that's my graffiti voice apparently. And then like, and then I found out it was a girl, and I was like, of course, leave it to a girl to put something beautiful up.
When I originally started out, I was just making little tiny stickers, and then I started making billboards, and then I was doing like news boxes and subway ads. So actually the point of getting to the wheat paste portraits was a little bit of a long path. For me, I had grown up painting with oil paints on canvas, very traditional, I grew up really before the internet. So my entire concept of what art could even be was incredibly, incredibly limited. When I landed in New York City and started looking around me, and I was like, wait, all of the stuff that I grew up looking at, even like Robert Rauschenberg, like this kind of beautiful layered collaged aesthetic, when I would look at the city streets, I was like, oh, that didn't come from nowhere, that came from here. Like, this is like a kind of an embodiment of New York City. And so it really got me looking at the streets and got me saying like, oh, maybe it's more interesting to me to participate in the collage directly rather than to make an imitation of the collage, for example.
You're gonna get your mind right. And I mean right.
There were these elements of like using the city, creating temporary work, and like making something that was part of the actual fabric of the city that felt super dynamic for me, where I had just gotten to New York and I was like in love with it. I was obsessed with it. And so I just wanted to make something that didn't just pay homage to it, but that participated directly with the city.
Yeah.
My name is Aiko. I was born and raised in Tokyo, and I moved to New York 1997. New York is like central for everything, anything, and I heard that there are a lot of different people are doing great stuff, so I just wanted to come see it, and hopefully like I can find something I can do and I can be. When I saw first time House on Bowery Wall, it was the creation of Keith Haring. I was really wondering, in the beginning, like first 3 years, only guys artists are painting the wall. And I felt like, why not women, But now it's changing. I think like they understand, like they started to give opportunity to women, which is amazing, So I think that piece was like my first piece, like I felt strongly like this is female wall, like done by own female. Also, it was her first Asian artist. So for me, it's a double meaning, Like, I don't see any Asian who paints wall like me at the time. So I felt like this was really, really important.
You have to be aware, especially if you're taking on this idea of really being an artist. You don't come from wealthy families, you come from, working on gigs and putting money aside for your paint, or not treating your art as a hobby. Like, you are investing in yourself, you are investing in your art form, and at some point, you're gonna be able to leave side jobs and make art more of your full-time job. And I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I just knew I'm an artist, this is my life, I love to do it, I could never leave it. And it's never a hobby for me. Like, I never felt it was a hobby. I was like, this is my life. But I live in New York City, it's an expensive city, and things are changing, and so I have to have a 9 to 5. It's kind of like, how can I continue to do what I love, but I have to leave my beloved city because it's now or never. I'm 35 and I want to be able to live a full-time artist life, and it's impossible in New York. It just got to that point, and I was like, Ecuador would help me become a full-time artist. So I go and I take a break and I love it. I find a really nice place to live there. And so I decide to stay. And now I'm back in Ecuador where it's just starting. So I already have the experience, I'm sharing it over there, I'm coming back and forth, organizing and producing an event that's called the Warmi Paint Festival, and it's the first all-women arts and culture celebration that happened in the country. That kind of stuff doesn't really exist there.
Gracias a todos. Estamos muy felices que comenzamos el Warmi Paint.
We were able to receive a grant to bring artists like Lady Pink and Martha Cooper. The idea really was to continue to put street art and graffiti on a map because Ecuador still doesn't think that graffiti could be at that level. There's not a lot of museums for art, there's not a lot of opportunities for women to become professional artists or designers. It's just not looked at as a career, it's looked down upon.
Estamos acá en Quito con Pamela de Castro, de Brasil. Estamos con Catalina Bugoni ¿de dónde? La Colombia. La Colombia representando. Carla Quispe de Lima, Perú.
Mi nombre es Vero Rivera, yo soy de Carolina, Puerto Rico, y estoy aquí en Quito, Ecuador, participando del festival Warmi Paint.
Somos de USA Crew y somos de Chile.
Soy Belén Bike de Quito.
Soy Lili Cuca y vengo de Colombia.
Yo soy Vera, soy de Ecuador.
Bueno, mi nombre es Fio Silva, soy de Argentina.
It was rather interesting to be back in my homeland. I haven't been there in over 10 years, and it still looked the same, except that now it was just covered in graffiti and tags everywhere, and I saw nice legal walls that were starting to look a little shabby because I understand the laws have changed and they can't paint legal walls anymore. That's unfortunate. And, you know, overall, I love my country, but the laws and the government are just flawed. They're backwards, and they're you know, just take advantage of the poor and the helpless. And artists have been traditionally, you know, pioneers in all kinds of places. And to be cut short like this, it's bad for women, still second-class citizens. And there's quite a struggle for them. And again, I don't envy that. They're like, you know, maybe how America was back 50 years ago or 80 years ago or something. And it's just kind of sad. But I did have fun despite all that. I enjoyed myself. I loved meeting all these other artists, ladies from Latin America. And historically, I've been the only one that was painting for many decades. And then now there's a whole lot of other sisters to play with.
Creating this Warmi Paint Festival was a great opportunity because at that point we felt that we could raise awareness and educate more of the country's people to know that graffiti and street art is a very beautiful art form, that they should respect it. It makes them think twice. It makes them think like, oh, maybe graffiti is not vandalism. Maybe graffiti is something else. Let's go learn, you know, what it's all about. If you don't start showing people that these are respected graffiti artists and start paying them, you know, people are gonna think like, oh, everybody does it for free, it doesn't matter, you know, it's not valued as much. But no, we paid everyone, and even our folks that came to do conferences, you know, it was very professional, basically, is what I'm trying to get at.
Empecé a pintar mujeres porque siento que la mayoría de las imágenes sobre mujeres que vemos todo el tiempo son generadas o para vender o son una visión que la sociedad quiere imponer sobre la mujer. Y hay muy pocas representaciones en la calle hechas por mujeres sobre mujeres.
Bueno, yo sí entiendo que es súper importante que las mujeres salgan pues, a la calle a trabajar y que demuestren que pueden hacer un trabajo tan físico, ¿no? E não só isso, sino também levar mensagem.
O objeto do meu trabalho é o corpo feminino em diálogo com a cidade. Eu sou feminista, então meu trabalho ele é bem carregado com as questões feministas de gênero e sempre falando pouquinho também dos direitos das mulheres.
Está siendo genial esta experiencia porque, no sé, tal vez yo al principio tenía como una especie de prejuicio con esas cuestiones de solo mujeres, ¿no? Como capaz lo sentía como era una especie de que uno mismo se separa de algo, ¿no? Y fue re lindo como tener contacto con tantas chicas que tienen ideas tan geniales, que cada una es de un país, de una historia distinta. Y no sé, siento que me dio otra mentalidad de eso. Otra mentalidad también en pensar a la mujer en cuestión con la calle, no solo en el arte, sino en la vida en general, en la vida pública.
I've known Two Fly for a long time. I think she's just an amazing, wonderful, organized woman, and I think it's just great that she managed to come to a country that actually hasn't had that many street art events and organize such a big event. It's so complicated to get the walls, get the paint, get the sponsorship, organize all the flights. One of the things that I liked was meeting a lot of artists that I'd never heard of before, very good artists, and seeing their work. And the camaraderie, I think because there were so many Latin American artists, I don't speak Spanish, they speak Spanish, but there was an instant rapport. It was just a very warm festival. Warmy. It was a very warm festival.
I think giving back, it makes everything come full circle. Graffiti, even though people look at it as an illegal thing, whatever these graffiti writers were tagging up on the walls inspired me to get in it. And then now I've been able to create this big world around it, and I'm giving back. And I'm sure there's plenty of other girls that were like my age, how I was back then, looking at my work and maybe wanting to be something like I am to the next level. And so it kind of just keeps going and going and going.
México tiene como tanta tradición, por ejemplo, en la gráfica, en la pintura, el muralismo, y como esta obsesión por mostrarlo, que cada una de esas pequeñas cosas tiene su propio lugar, ¿no? Es como México un estallido de expresión, como una necesidad muy fuerte de expresar todo. Entonces, esta misma expresión se puede canalizar a través de una estructura gubernamental, como puede ser un museo, o privada, como puede ser una galería, graffiti en la calle, pero siempre es como una obsesión por la expresión, ¿no? De forma cultural o artística. Eso sí es muy, muy palpable. Para mí es bien interesante ver como un anuncio publicitario, enseguida un graffiti, una casa súper elegante y enseguida una casa que se cae. ¿Sabes? Como todo eso para mí es como el graffiti de la ciudad. Para mí la calle es bien importante porque es el lugar donde fluyen todas las personas. Es algo público. Entonces todo es rápido, la gente va rápido, pasa rápido, si va a ver algo lo va a ver rápido. Todo es velocidad en la calle. Es como el servidor, ¿no? Es como ahí está todo. Entonces si tú no actúas rápido, si tú piensas y no te dejas llevar por la intuición de lo que está pasando en la calle te escupe, ¿sabes? Te escupe. Hace muchos años en donde era muy raro ver a una mujer pintar en la calle. Pero cuando yo comencé a pintar, ya había mujeres pintando en la calle. No muchas, nunca han sido muchas, pero por lo menos no era raro ver a una mujer pintar en la calle. Entonces mis experiencias son más neutras en ese sentido. Yo no viví esa violencia, porque yo no fui parte de ese movimiento que empezó de mujeres en la calle. Ya he pensado mucho en esto, como conmigo misma, y pienso que para mí ha sido aprender a que proyecte más una neutralidad respecto a ser mujer o hombre. Mis experiencias en la calle son más pacíficas. Si yo proyecto una feminidad muy positiva, digamos, en mi forma de vestir o de ser, yo me voy a enfrentar a una respuesta muy masculina y yo no quiero vivir eso. Igual del otro lado, si me pongo como en una posición muy masculina, también voy a sufrir otro tipo de violencia. O sea, es como la parte masculina de atacar un espacio público, pero también la parte femenina de tomarse el tiempo de hacer algo estético. Entonces yo de verdad intento como buscar mi lado femenino y mi lado masculino de igual porcentaje. Pintar en la calle es una fase para mí. No pienso pintar siempre. Ahora el street art o el graffiti está muy de moda. Instancias como el gobierno y empresas se han dado cuenta del gran poder que tiene emitir una opinión en la calle a través de un artista. Cuando yo empezaba, esto me parecía increíble porque yo de repente tenía la oportunidad de pintar edificios grandes, con mucha producción. Pero poco a poco me he dado cuenta lo que está detrás. Gente haciendo mucho dinero con tu trabajo y tú nada. Y a principios de este año, como con mucha tristeza y como casi como volviendo a empezar, todo a la mierda, galerías a la mierda, trabajos privados, trabajos de gobierno, todo poco a poco ha ido desvaneciéndose. Yo tomé esa decisión a finales del año pasado porque me daba cuenta que toda mi carrera estaba basado en ese tipo de cosas, económicamente perdida, porque trabajaba mucho, no me pagaban y te venden este cuento de que va a ser por tu bien, que ellos te van a dar publicidad y obviamente todo es una mentira, ¿no? Llegué aquí a Malinalco, que es en el Estado de México, a unas 2 horas de la Ciudad de México, muy lejos de toda la ebullición de la ciudad y de todo este mundo de street art y todo eso. Y junté a un grupo pequeño de personas, de amigos, y empezamos a venir aquí a pintar en los pueblos, en las comunidades. Y ha sido muy bonito porque es como lo mismo que hacía antes, pero con otro beneficio.
Cuando entendí que había graffiti en todo el mundo, para mí fue como brutal. Me di cuenta que no estábamos solos, ¿no? Que mientras yo salgo a pintar, hay otro loco en otro país que está haciendo su misma lucha para hacer lo que le gusta. Fusca la conocí en un evento en Querétaro que se llama BondIt y nos invitaron a pintar y pues nada, compartimos cuartos solo por azar y le ayudé ese día a terminar su muro y fue chévere porque Fusca y yo tenemos muchas cosas en común, estudiamos en los mismos lugares, a destiempo porque ella es una generación más grande que yo, pero igual para mí fue increíble saber que hay chicas que pintan, ¿no? Así con disciplina como Fusca.
Trabajo de aquí de Malinalco ha cambiado totalmente mi empresa, mi identidad de Fusca. O sea, ya aquí ya no hay un beneficio directo ni al gobierno, ni a ninguna empresa, ni al ego de ningún artista. Por eso yo no muestro mi cara, porque no soy yo. Es como muy enfocado en algo que es como comunitario. Como somos muchas personas, no es Fusca, es todos. la gente, sobre todo a los niños y a las niñas, noto que cuando yo estoy pintando en la calle les emociona, como que, wow, eso también lo puedo hacer yo. Es una experiencia distinta cuando está pintando un hombre porque es como la costumbre de que un hombre esté trabajando en la calle. Pero cuando pasa una niña y como que me ve pintando, es como que se ve a sí misma pudiendo hacer eso también, ¿no? Escalando un andamio, vestida así como hombre, tenis, gorra. Y es como que un shock para ellas, ¿no? Que van con sus vestiditos y su muñeca, ¿no? Es como algo totalmente fuera de su rango de feminidad, ¿no? Eso me gusta mucho, como dar esa percepción de lo que puedes hacer fuera de tu concepto de lo que es ser una mujer o una persona, ¿no?
Então, antes de procurar muro, eu não gosto de pedir autorização, eu gosto de chegar também fazer e achar um muro legal. E geralmente nos lugares, eu gosto de muro mais sujo, mais que tá bem podre, assim, são os meus prediletos. E obviamente que não tem pichação, que não tem trabalho de ninguém. A lei aqui de São Paulo é essa. A gente não pinta em cima de pichação e nem de outros trabalhos. Mas eu gosto muito mais da pichação, porque representa muito São Paulo, sabe? Esse tipo de tipografia, super reto, duro, uma coisa meio, sei lá, linear, assim, não sei. Não, logo que eu comecei a pintar, né? Aquele ali, ó. Ele era mais laranjinha quando eu pintei. Ramírez, parece com meu irmão. É muito ruim. Eu aprendi a pintar com meu pai. Ele pintava comigo no colo, assim, quando eu era pequenininha. Meu pai sempre me trouxe muito esse universo dele, lá da Bahia. Então sempre introduziu com a música, com a poesia, com as coisas que ele pinta. Que eu trago assim as cores da Bahia, que eu falo, eu vim de lá, vem de lá, toda essa referência, acho que é muito para suprir a necessidade da falta das cores, de repente, aqui na cidade, sabe? De São Paulo. Porque ela é cinza, ela é cheia de não me toque, não faça isso, não faça aquilo, não possa ir na rua, é perigoso ficar criança na rua, tem grades, muros, medo em todo lugar, então eu acho que eu contraponho, sabe? Eu trago toda essa liberdade, sem roupa, mulher, cor, laranja, mais vibrante. Mas também questionando, sempre com um lado mais questionador, mais visceral da coisa, assim. A gente busca referência, né? De quem nos representa ali, né? Nina Pandolfo, ela que eu via, é inspiradora, assim. Puta, tem uma menina pintando na rua, que legal. Que legal, é possível, né? Foi ela que mais se falava na mídia, que se falava nos lugares, que tinha livro, que estava ali com os gêmeos, que estava ali. Foi a Nina.
Comecei a fazer o grafite, eu não tinha nada a ver com o movimento hip hop, nem sabia direito da existência dele, eu tinha 13 anos. E até que me apresentaram um livro de Nova York, o Spray Can, né, o Spray Can Art, e foi ali que eu comecei a ver outras coisas, e o Subway, e daí eu vi que tinha a Lady Pink, né? Até nesses dois livros eram quase 100% homens, e uma única mulher, que eu me lembro que tem nesses livros. Então eu não tive quase referência. quando eu vi o trabalho da Lady Pink, eu falei assim, nossa, que legal, né? Eu tô no caminho certo, não é porque eu sou mulher, porque eu não sou do hip hop, que eu tenho que mudar todo o meu estilo para fazer algo, para enquadrar no grafite. Eu queria, na verdade, pintar na rua e levar o meu trabalho, as menininhas, os bichinhos, esse meu universo cheio de cores fortes, porque a cidade de São Paulo, para mim, ela ainda é, desde aquela época, ela continua sendo muito cinza. Você olha, as casas são cinzas, todas as arquiteturas são cinzas, carros preto, branco, cinza. É uma cidade muito monocromática. Então eu comecei a pintar na rua para quebrar a rotina das pessoas, para elas estarem lá no trânsito, que aqui o trânsito é absurdo, de repente ter uma cor explodindo assim na lateral dela e já mudar o dia.
While the rest of the world was developing their own style in their own way, Brazil took what New York had taught and threw it out the window. And we had no idea that it would grow into such a large movement that encompasses the whole world.
Eu não sei se ela é maior do que outros movimentos de arte, mas ela está chegando com muita força e agradando a muita gente. As pessoas não precisam necessariamente entender o grafite para gostar ou não.
Eu lembro que quando eu viajava, as pessoas adoravam o grafite brasileiro, o artista, né? Porque era muito diferente da cena grafite do mundo inteiro, né? Todo mundo seguia um padrão grafite e a gente seguia um outro lado, assim.
A internet não era de fácil acesso para todos aqui no Brasil, não tínhamos revistas, não tínhamos livros, não tinha nada aqui no Brasil, não tinha informação sobre o grafite.
Começou com palavras na rua, né? E quem me contou essas histórias foi tipo Espeto, Gustavo dos Gêmeos. Uma galera que começou bem antes, né? E existia um cara que escreve, que escrevia Juneca, e ele colocava o nome em muitos lugares. Os caracteres, né? Começou a crescer, eu acho que nos anos 90, que foi com todos eles, Viché, Gêmeos, Herbert, Honesto. E era uma geração que foi a primeira geração, né, do grafite, que cresceu bastante, que deu nome para o grafite brasileiro. E depois veio uma outra geração que eu vim junto. Eu vim na segunda geração do grafite.
Meu primeiro muro eu pintei no final de 2010, não faz tanto tempo assim, porque a minha história é meio diferente dos grafiteiros, dos artistas de rua que já começam a fazer na rua. A minha história foi praticamente depois de adulta mesmo que eu comecei a prestar atenção. Quando eu vi uma foto da Magrela, ela fez um muro numa escada que eu falei, nossa, é a Rapunzel. Ela tá ali fazendo assim um desenho maravilhoso. Eu acho que isso acaba te dando força.
Então, quando me falam às vezes o que o grafite significa para mim, ele significa essa liberdade que ele me deu e essa segurança e essa possibilidade de conhecer São Paulo, sabe? Porque é uma cidade que não tem o que fazer muito. Por exemplo, eu moro na Zona Oeste. Se eu não conhecer alguém de lá, não tem o que fazer na Zona Norte, por exemplo. É tudo muito concentrado no centro da cidade ou muito aqui na Zona Oeste, que é a maioria dos lugares, principalmente na Vila Madalena. Então o grafite, ele me fez conhecer São Paulo. Eu conheci as pessoas que moram nela, quem são essas pessoas, como elas pensam. Conheci gente muito pobre, conheci gente muito rica. Saí da bolha, sabe? Eu saí dessa bolha que eu vivo, assim. E o grafite pra mim é isso, por ela ter muita essa diferença social, principalmente de dinheiro, muito forte. Isso dói um pouco, porque ao mesmo tempo você vê gente passando com carrão, tem gente morrendo de fome, passando por vários problemas na rua. É o reflexo, né? O reflexo da doença, enfim. São Paulo é muito intrigante pra mim. Eu gosto dela por ela me desafiar o tempo inteiro, sabe?
É impossível para mim, mas eu acho que é impossível para qualquer pessoa de São Paulo, morar em São Paulo, que é uma cidade de concreto, se ela não tiver fissurada pela pichação.
Em São Paulo tem uma caligrafia bem diferente do Rio de Janeiro. Em São Paulo as linhas são retas, que eu já vejo uma semelhança com a arquitetura de São Paulo, que são tudo reto. O mapa de São Paulo da calçada são linhas retas, né, geométricas. Então a pichação daqui são reta, a pichação do Rio já é toda enrolada, como as ondas, como os prédios, enfim. Então nós temos essa caligrafia que é chamada de pichação aqui no Brasil. Então, às vezes eu estava pintando, as pessoas, mas você está fazendo, não é pichação, porque é diferente, mas via você com um spray na mão, pichação, eu tinha uma dúvida. Aí você tinha que falar o que era grafite, o que eu estava fazendo. Então, a partir do momento que eu estava na rua, eu passava muito tempo explicando o que era grafite.
Pichadora é uma coisa, grafiteira é outra. Eu nunca quis ser grafiteira. Eu me sinto pichadora como alguém que questiona, como alguém que critica, como alguém que vai fazer uma provocação, né? O picho, pelo menos, ele nasce, assim, ele ganha força nos anos 60, no Brasil, na América Latina, na França, como picho protesto, com as palavras de ordem, né? Quando começam a cercear as liberdades coletivas, as liberdades individuais, a democracia, começa a ter nos muros, nas paredes, tanto de spray, de tinta, quanto de canetão nos banheiros, dentro do transporte público, nos ônibus. As pessoas começam a escrever, né? Porque elas precisam, de alguma forma, expressar aquelas ideias de liberdade, de democracia, de igualdade, de justiça, enfim.
A arte, para mim, o que eu quero fazer com ela é mexer com a sociedade. Então, geralmente, eu pego coisas que estão acontecendo no nosso cotidiano, no Brasil e no mundo, e dou eu chamo de crítica na encolha. É uma crítica com uma leveza, um bom humor, mas que, no fundo, é uma coisa forte para a pessoa pensar.
São Paulo é assim, né? Tem essa bipolaridade de ter uma street art que também veio para agradar pessoas e tem toda aquela coisa mais de embelezamento da cidade. E a pichação que veio para trazer o que é realmente a cidade, sabe? Que não é fácil, que tem muitos problemas. E ela vem para lembrar, sabe? Eu sinto que é isso. Para lembrar que essas pessoas existem, sabe? Tiveram muitos cortes dentro do Ministério, né? Eles cortaram várias coisas. A primeira coisa que o presidente fez foi fechar o Ministério da Cultura, foi mexer nos direitos humanos, nos direitos das mulheres e dos homossexuais. Então, tipo, para você ver o nível, né? De, assim, regresso e de conservadorismo.
Na guerra da prefeitura contra a pichação, sobrou para a arte de rua.
O prefeito João Dória acordou cedo para pintar um trechinho desse muro na 23 de maio.
Os muros desta avenida, a 23 de maio, eram ícones do grafite em São Paulo. O maior mural a céu aberto da América Latina, com quase 5,5 km de extensão. Agora, não fazem mais parte da paisagem.
Em muitos muros de São Paulo, grafite e pichação se misturavam. Agora os dois foram apagados. Arte urbana e sujeira desapareceram sob uma mesma cor. Um polêmico tom de cinza.
O meu país é machista, racista, machista, homofóbico. Então ele é isso, opressor. A esquerda vai ter que se unir e eu acredito que as coisas vão começar a expurgar, assim, ter que ser mais violento, mais... O oprimido, eu acho que ele vai ter que ir pra rua, ele vai ter que trabalhar, assim, batalhar mesmo, uma luta. Olá. Tudo bem?
Será uma denúncia aí, pichação?
Ah,
tem
não.
autorização para fazer o grafite aí?
Não, a gente não tem. Mas geralmente eu faço esse trabalho de pegar lugares que estão mais abandonados.
que averiguar, porque até então é o patrimônio de uma pessoa, né?
Na verdade eu nem pensei nisso, né? Porque como eu vim aqui, eu moro aqui pertinho. Aí eu passo sempre aqui, essa pracinha tá meio abandonada. E as meninas estão fazendo um documentário também.
Sobre?
É sobre grafite. Elas são norte-americanas.
A senhora pausa pra mim, depois a senhora grava?
Stop. Vivemos num país que agora presidente, no meu caso governador e prefeito são da direita, brancos, homens, empresários, que só pensam no dinheiro e na empresa deles, no privatizar, enfim. Eu não sei o que vai acontecer. Eu tô meio assustada, na verdade, né, com essa situação.
Making something outside and letting it show up in people's lives in a way that surprises them is super disarming, and I find that, you know, again, like returning to the stories of people telling me, like, you know, having conversations with homeless people who are like, I spent the night like talking to your drawings, or I pass that drawing every day and it means like this to me, or wanting to like engage in a political conversation about what they think the history of this particular drawing represents, means to me that you're bringing culture, meaningful culture, to people rather than allowing it to exist only within institutions, which can feel really elitist. And I appreciate those institutions, absolutely, but I just have always felt that I never wanted my art to only exist in those spaces. And when I started working outside, and I saw the way that people were reacting, I was like, oh, this is powerful. Bringing work to people where they are is a powerful thing.
Eu sou uma mulher incomodada, então os meus personagens, as minhas mulheres, são incomodadas. Então, é isso que eu quero falar pro mundo. Tipo, não tá tudo bem. Se você acha que tá tudo bem, que mundo você vive, né? Que bolha você vive. Não tá tudo bem. Tipo, a gente sempre tem que mudar alguma coisa dentro da gente, a gente sempre tem que matar preconceitos dentro da gente. A gente sofre coisas que a gente não queria sofrer e que tem muita coisa horrível acontecendo no mundo. Eu quero falar sobre essas coisas, entendeu? Pra ver se as coisas mudam, pra ver se as pessoas tomam consciência, sabe? Pra ver se a gente para de pensar no nosso umbigo e se a gente começa a ter empatia, se a gente começa a mudar ali, sabe? Por mais que seja no micro, né? Mudar um pouquinho o jeito que você fala com o seu vizinho, o jeito que você se relaciona com as pessoas que estão ali trabalhando com você, enfim.
Sempre tem aqueles que tentam, não acreditam na capacidade de uma mulher, que tentam colocar a mulher como algo que não é tão capaz de fazer um bom trabalho, né? O bom trabalho que a mulher faz é casa, comida, só isso. Um exemplo foi aqui em São Paulo, que apagaram um mural que era meu, dos Gêmeos, do Viché, enfim, de alguns artistas. A prefeitura, sem querer, apagou um mural com o projeto Cidade Cinza, né, que é terceirizada. A empresa veio e limpou, acho que 800 metros quadrados de mural. E daí a prefeitura convocou os artistas para ter uma reunião para refazer esse trabalho, né, refazer esse mural. Quando eu cheguei, acharam que eu era secretária, não acharam que eu era uma das artistas, porque eu estava arrumadinha, né, sou cheia de coisinha e maquiada e tal. E quando eu cheguei para a reunião, a mulher falou assim, você é a secretária dos artistas? Eu falei, não, eu sou uma das artistas. Ela olhou assim para mim, você faz grafite? Foi assim o máximo, né? Tipo, por que, né, que não pode ter uma mulher como artista de grafite também?
Chegando com uma outra postura, a tendência é as pessoas te respeitarem. Eu acho que é extremamente importante a postura da mulher. De chegar e não ter, por exemplo, todo mundo pegou muro legal e a menina tá lá atrás, no escondido, no chapiscado. Eu acho que isso já mudou bastante. Já tem mulheres assim com um trabalho muito forte, continuando e que já conquistaram respeito. E eu acho que é isso que a gente quer. O que me encanta na arte de rua é que quando você passa e vê um desenho, você não sabe se foi homem que fez, se foi mulher, se foi um senhor, se foi um adolescente.
Assim, aqui em São Paulo e no Brasil, a cena do feminismo e a geração nova das mulheres, elas estão trazendo Estão falando sobre isso, entendeu? Estão falando das mulheres se juntar, se unir, de tomar consciência das atitudes, de falar sobre assédio na rua, de falar sobre estupro, de falar sobre... Toda mulher tem alguma história a contar. Então as mulheres estão se unindo e isso faz com que a gente comece a ver que algumas situações que a gente vivia era um assédio, era machismo, e aí os homens não estão sabendo lidar com isso, né? Eles não estão na mesma onda que a gente. Isso no mundo do grafite, no mundo do skate, no mundo que eu convivo, que geralmente tem muitos homens. Esse universo não foi diferente do que eu tive que passar minha vida inteira, né, como mulher. Então, você só é mais uma barreira, sabe, para quebrar, né? Estando nesse lugar cheio de homens, estando nesse lugar que eles olham para você, eles falam, é só uma mulher, tipo, eles te subestimam mesmo, né? Eu não deixo de fazer nada porque eu sou mulher, entendeu? Eu faço, porque eu sou um ser humano, né? E eu quero fazer e ponto.
I believe that street art had a huge impact on the beginning of this early century here around the world. I think that it's taken art in a whole different direction.
Now I think every city has a group of women painting and getting together and doing walls. Every country now has been exposed to the culture through the internet.
It's basically a community effort. We're all doing a little bit, and it is coming together, and it's really heartening to see that I think women are getting stronger and stronger.
In America, the women's movement has gained ground, and women are seen as much more equal, but in other parts of the world, women are still second, third-class citizens, and it's a long fight.
Our political climate is really representing the consolidation of power in a very, very, very scary way. And so when people get together out into the streets, what is happening is that you're kind of doing a drawback of that power and saying it won't be consolidated. In fact, it will be present in each of us in our multiplicity. And that's the strength of those numbers in the streets.
The people, united, will never be defeated.
Rebellion, it's necessary in our society. I think we become stagnant, we become boring, we become stale. And the fact that I'm a female, you're gonna have to just get over it. You know, we're in sports, we're in the military, we're strong, we're tough, we're brave, we're foolish and reckless, just like the rest of the guys.
This particular creative movement, it feels like the movement of our generation.
I would say it's probably the biggest art movement the world has ever seen. In geography and in amount of people that participate in every corner of the world, bigger than the Renaissance, bigger than the Impressionists, bigger than any other, the pop art movement, whatever movement you can mention, we are bigger. We have definitely appealed to the masses.
I want my art to visually impact people, even if it's just for a fraction of a second. I know that somebody sometime will say to a little girl, a woman did that. And I think that's really impactful.
Everybody come from somewhere, or maybe nowhere, the place you wake from. The place we ain't from that makes us scared. The projects, the overseas, the trailer parks, the poverty line. Place where ain't no art on the walls, just pictures of Jesus and civil rights leaders or Confederate flags and Elvis. Observed from the plastic cover seating and struggling mothers. Young brothers turn into fathers and troublesome cousins that we hang out with that sinks us farther, cause trouble's in numbers. But we can't help it, that's where we from. And we ain't got good educational systems to teach us. Instead, we see who we are not and think they all beneath us. Cause he carry a heater, she got her college degree up. Cause the sweetest love will knock you up and he don't want to keep her. We all living different for a reason. We come from the root, the root, the root, the root. Where you from, who you know, how you know, where you going. What's life coming from the bottom of the root? Trying to rise up and go to something for my truth.
Strong roots will make you tree grow.
Coming from the bottom at the road, try to rise up and go to something from my truth. Strong roots will make it, strong roots will make it, strong roots will make it grow old. Everybody come from nowhere to maybe somewhere, and going back to where we come from sometimes makes us scared. Double checking funds to secure we got enough bread to look good, to eat good and do better than we once did. Just trying to make ends meet each other when we've got nothing. The ruder less stronger, spirits higher when we got comfort. No comforter for the bed, but we sleep in a dream for something. What you say to the kid that only get meals from his school lunches? Coming from different corners, brought up by broken daughters. Cross the waters to the suburbs, you really see some lost ones wandering from the truth, but look what our roots taught us. Stay grounded in my childhood house, cause home is where the heart is. The start of us all, when we fall the hardest. We fall beneath us to the beginning, and with reason it's the roots. The roots. The roots.